can make some really strong returns. And so if you borrow money in order to do that, I have on here a 12-month no interest credit card. And a lot of people have said to me, well, you can't take $100,000 out on a credit card. True. But what you can do is you can stack multiple. So I don't know how many of you guys get the credit card offers in your mailbox every day, but there are a lot of options out there. So this number maybe is different for you. I'm using $100,000 because it's easy math. Maybe you use $10,000. But basically, if you can get a 12-month no interest credit card, you can put some life expenses on that, and then whatever you would have used to pay those life expenses, instead you take that money and you make the investment. So the no interest credit card is part of your strategy, but the money doesn't come off the credit card to make it, right? So like you charge some stuff to the credit card and use that cash instead to invest. So that is a strategy we love doing. You have to be good at it, right? So you don't just like lose your money. So be careful with it. So one of the things we did is we invested in a fund that was giving us 10% a month for 13 months. It was a 13-month lockout. That was the amount of time you had to be in, and then you had to leave at 13 months. So we were able to pay back that credit card in month 10 and then collect $30K of cash flow for the final 3 months. And then when we exited the investment, we got $100,000 back. Okay, so this was $130,000 that we made by stacking. It was about 25K each by stacking the no interest credit cards. So that's pretty fun, right? And you can expand this or shrink this to whatever budget you want to work with. We also use a strategy to create cash flow income streams for different things we want in life, like vacations, things like that. So play with that, see what you find available to you. And this one's really risky. So someone earlier was saying, hey, these all have different risks. Yes, they do. And this one is much riskier. So we only borrowed as much as we knew we could pay back if we lost 100% of the money invested. So make sure you do that as well. But if you invest it right, then you can make a lot of money off of borrowed money, and it's really fun. Cool. All right, so that was my last example. Oh, on here, I just came up on the slide. Who wants the ROI calculator? So every investment that we offer, I have it in a grid that looks like, well, the grid that we had up earlier. So I'm going to send it all to you guys so that you can plug into that ROI calculator any investment that you're looking at. So you can do these kinds of examples, different debt examples, different investments. You can plug it into the ROI calculator and see what it would look like for you. All right, so here is the grand finale, right? So you guys, oh wait, I see a question. Do you have options to invest? So I see some questions around investing if you're not an accredited investor. So right now at Sugo Capital, what we have open is only for accredited investors. However, in the spring, we're looking to launch a fund, which will be a Reg A, which means accredited and non-accredited investors can join. I know that's a long way away, but that's in our product catalog. It's to come out in spring, hopefully early spring, but we'll see. We'll see. So know that today, no, but in the future, yes, you can invest with us as a non-accredited investor. All right, so I talked about earlier that I went through and I did a four-step investment strategy plan with all those investors. So what was the fourth step? So you set all your goals, you learned how to pick your investments, but now you need to build your plan to take the next step. So you sat with Scott all day yesterday, you sat with me all day today. And so how do you take action? And so I know a bunch of people who are in the audience right now who have used this, what I'm about to share, and they said literally it did change their life. They did reach the goals and it did change their life. So I encourage you all to pay attention. You can draw it on a page. I'll also, as a follow-up, I'll email it out to everyone, but it's really simple to build yourself. So basically what you're going to want to draw on the page is something that looks like this. This is going to be your 90-day plan. Really easy, right? And I didn't make this up. You can see at the bottom, copyright Donnell Delgado. Why is it going on and off the screen? There we go. I went to a 10X event and she was the speaker and she put this on the screen and walked through it and I used it and bam, it was like, I built my company. I reached my goals. This was so powerful for me because at the time I was working at Sony PlayStation. I was running a program management office we would do quarterly planning with like 150 developers. And it was this like week-long quarterly planning all our sprints out. And it was a really big deal. So in my mind, that's what quarterly planning was. But quarterly planning for your life, I mean, if you're doing it at work, you're doing it in your companies, at your job, you should at least do it for your life goals, right? And it can be really simple. So what I want you to do is draw this on a piece of paper. I'll also send it to you, but you might as well do it right now because we'll do a little workshopping on it afterwards. But write this out. And so this is for the next 30 days. I want you to choose three goals. And if you accomplish those goals, they have to be bigger than anything you've done before. And if you accomplished this goal in the next 90 days, think about what could you do in the next 90 days that would really change the trajectory of your wealth building, like really remove a roadblock or accelerate you. And you won't have time to fill out all three right now across this whole board, but at least put in that what column, put 3 goals that you can think of that are like, oh man, I've been really procrastinating on that, or this has really been holding me back, or I've always wanted to do this. Those are the kind of things you want to put in this first column of the what column. So 3 things that are bigger than you've ever done before. It can't be like, oh, I'm going to earn another $100,000 if every quarter you always earn $100,000. That's not a goal for this chart, right? It's not going to change your life. It's just doing the same thing. So it needs to be something that will remove a giant roadblock or accelerate you past a hump that you've been hitting, right? So that goes in the what column. The when column is not at the end of 90 days. Put some intermittent steps. I'm going to give you an example of one of my goals. So when I went from, a W-2 job and my husband had a W-2 job and we had no real estate and we really had no investments, we had a CPA and it was a very simple process. And once we started building a company and building our real estate portfolio and adding in syndications and adding in a couple holding companies, and it was like, oh, wait, now we have properties in different states. And okay, now it was way too much for our current CPA. They didn't know the right tax strategy or advice. So I needed to find a new CPA. And I knew that I was leaving money on the table by not having a good tax strategy. So for me, in that first box, I said, I need a new CPA who's going to give me a strong tax strategy. For the when, what did I put in there? I didn't just say, oh, in the next 90 days. I gave myself milestones. So I said, in the next 30 days, I will have asked people who are in the situation that I am in or that I'm going to be in for referrals. And then I'm going to do research and pick 3 to interview. So that was like in 30 days, I'll have picked 3 to interview, 3 CPAs. And then in 60 days, I will have interviewed all those 3 CPAs and decided which one to work with. And in 90 days, I will sit down and do tax strategy planning with that new CPA on my team. So if you put a chunk in there, like in 90 days, I'm going to have a new CPA. If you've been procrastinating on it for the past year or 2, that's not going to help you. But if you break it down into those steps, put a date there or put, 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, that'll help you get through it. It'll help you chunk it down into more actionable things. The why. So for me, I put the why here, like, okay, so a tax strategy is going to cost me $5,000 and I'm going to save $50,000. Like, why? I'm leaving money on the table and I know it. So that was my why. And I thought, what can I do with an extra $50,000 a year? Well, there's definitely a vacation in there. So then the who, that's who do you need to tell? Who do you need to tell? So in my example, I needed to tell my husband because he was doing the taxes with our CPA at that point. And I said, you know what? We need to stop what we're doing and do something different. And that something different is going to be me doing the taxes with a new CPA. Here's why. Are you okay with that? He was definitely okay with that. And then I needed to tell the people I wanted recommendations from. So I talked to everyone I know who had real estate investments and was a high net worth person. And I said, who is someone you're working with who you think gives you excellent tax strategy advice? And I collected those referrals. So the who is, who do you need to tell? Who do you need to work with? Who do you need on your team? Who do you need to tell who's already on your team? So if you're working with Scott's team and the CPAs and asset protection attorneys and all of that, you need to tell them what this goal is so that they can help you get there. So that's going to be your who. And whoever you're making this decision with who's in your personal life, right? So your spouse, your family member, maybe your business partner. Another time, one of my goals was to do something in my business that was really big, but I wouldn't be able to travel for my job. So I had to tell my boss, hey, for the next 90 days, I'm not going to travel for work. I'm going to visit all those clients via Zoom instead. He was like, what are you doing? But that was my who I needed to tell was my boss, and tell my boss, I can't travel for work for the next 90 days because I needed more time to work on my business. I didn't tell him that was the why though. I just told him I couldn't travel for 90 days. The sacrifice is, what are you going to sacrifice and what are you not going to sacrifice? And get really clear on this for yourself. So in my CPA example, what I needed to sacrifice was my ego, because I was a bit embarrassed. I had already started my company. I had investors, and I was a bit embarrassed to go admit to CPAs that I needed help because some of the CPAs, had clients with me, and I was a bit worried that I would look unprofessional or a bit ignorant if I went with my questions to the CPAs of my clients, because a lot of my clients had at that time a much higher net worth I did. So I asked my clients, who do you work with? So I had to sacrifice my ego and said, you know what? It's worth it. I'm going to just go to everyone and say, hey, I need help. I need help. I don't know all this stuff. And, I had to take a good look at myself and decide what that sacrifice was. And the results are in the reward column. That is, how do you know when you've won? How do you know when you've hit it? That's the result. So for this example, the result was that I had a new tax strategy plan in place. And the reward, I think for this one, the reward was I went on a 3-day camping trip with my family because that's something I love to do. So that's what I rewarded myself with. But think about what you like. I have people all the time, their sacrifice is like cutting their time on Netflix in half. That's their sacrifice. And, their reward is a vacation or, purchasing a new car or whatever it is. So these are really like actual rewards. You want to make sure that you give yourself a really good reward, because you want to start teaching yourself that you set goals, you reach those goals, and you feel happy and rewarded after you reach those goals. And then you can rinse, repeat this every 90 days. And maybe you don't have 3 big ones. Maybe you have 1 big one every 90 days or 2 big ones every 90 days. But make sure you set a goal that will really change your life, your wealth building strategy, your wealth building trajectory if you complete it. And make sure you give yourself a good reward. And if you don't reach your goal, don't give yourself the reward. Rework it and figure out why you didn't get there and rework it and put it in this chart. But if you hit your goal, definitely give yourself a reward and teach yourself that you set goals and you reach them. So that is my last slide of today. So what I'd like to do is one last breakout session for actually ask me any questions while they get the breakout session ready, because I want to answer any questions that you might have before we go into breakout. Because in the breakout, I found that the who can often be people in your mastermind. So I'd love you to, in your breakouts of 5 people for 10 minutes, share one of your goals and go through each box. Go through each box. So what is the goal? What are the milestones? Why are you doing it? Who do you need to tell? Do you need advice from people in the room with you right now? What are you going to sacrifice? What is the result you're going for? And when you've hit that result, what reward are you going to give yourself? So any questions before we go do that? Sharon's asking, will you invite us to the upcoming webinar explaining your bot investment? Yes. So that's going to be in October, Sharon. So it's still in development. And so we've been running it for 3 months, well, 4 months now. So we want to wait till we've been running it for 6 months before we go ahead and explain everything and make the offer. All right. So go ahead, 10 minutes in the breakout, talk about one big goal and really, really, really get really clear on it and take this very seriously, because that's how you're going to change your life going forward. And that's why you've been here for 2 days, right? All right, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.